their method, go take their training. Lean to whatever teacher you gravitate toward. But if you want to just learn more about the subject, just do the subject. And if you want to learn more about yoga nidra, just practice yoga nidra. And if you want to learn more about meditation, come and meditate. Right? And so I've learned so much about yoga nidra by just practicing yoga nidra. So much about myself by just diving in deep to the practice. It's helpful to kind of know what it's about and where it comes from, its antecedents, these kinds of things. But there's no, there's no replacement for just getting there and doing the work. So I want to do some of that work today, and we'll have a discussion. I'll do a little bit of a lecture and give you the opportunity, if you want, so you can write in and offer some of your own comments and experiences. Aaron might chime in a little bit with experiences or comments or questions. We might field that from you. So like I said, I've been teaching yoga and mindfulness since 2003 as a career. I did my first yoga nidra training in 2008, and I've been teaching yoga nidra since 2008. In 2017, I moved from Salt Lake City, Utah to New York. My wife got a job there, and so picked up and moved to New York, and had a great year there. And then that kind of dried up, and we were kind of figuring out where we wanted to go next. And my wife, being kind of a mover and a shaker, said, "Hey, why don't we go try living in Europe for a year?" Why not? So we decided we'd go do that. And we went and we lived in Nice, France, south of France, and right in the Riviera there for a wonderful year. And it gave me a wonderful opportunity to practice sharing my message in a way that was not location dependent. And so I was able to make connections with people all over the world through my yoga nidra training. I wrote a book about yoga nidra, and we'll talk more about that later. So again, career yoga teacher. I write on my blog, on my website, which is scottmoreyoga.com. I write for other online journals and publications, notably Conscious Life News. I write the weekly article there, and on Elephant Journal, a thing called Sivana East, Medium. So I'm doing a lot of online writing things, and I'm sure a lot of you could attest to this as well. But strange how writing about a subject also helps you to learn the subject. And I don't know if you're like me, but to put all my thoughts down and to try to, become my worst critic and think about all the ins and outs of a particular subject.
Hey, Scott, can you hear this?
For me, what it is we're talking about, what is it I'm trying to convey.
I can hear you, but I don't think he can.
Oh, so, shoot. Thanks.
Hello, Scott, can you hear us? We can't hear you. There's a lot of background noise. There's a lot of, you're kind of quiet. I've gotten about 70% of what you're saying. And if I look at the comments, I'm not alone. A lot of people are having the same problems. Can you check your sound?
There's no battery. There's no battery. All right. Have test 1, 2 can get to this. Hello, test.
We don't have the static.
No static.
Well, it's not as bad. Let me say that.
Check 1, 2. Okay. This is 10 to 2. 10 to 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Yeah, this kind of not believing it. It's the right channel, I presume. And you looks like you got the mic all the way up on the Zoom phone. What if you took off the automatically adjusting volume? I don't know if that would be. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check check check. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Man, what a system. Just in your computer. I mean, this is oh, is it? Okay. Meditate. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. That's right. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. audio file as well, so I don't have, I mean, I've got a couple of those slides, but I like one with audio and just
Get too close.
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2.
Is that better? No.
You can't hear that better either?
No better, huh? That is really weird.
Yeah, I wonder if you should close out the meeting, start up again.
Yeah. Test 1, 2. That's a little bit better. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. That needs to be louder. All right, we'll get that as close as possible.
I think I messed up the angle of this.
It's okay, I'll get that one. I'll take care of that. So yeah, if you want to get just a little bit closer.
Okay. Yeah.
This there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope this works. Give me a thumbs up. You guys sound, can you hear me okay? All right. I see some 2 thumbs up across the world. That's amazing. Well, this is awesome. I get a redo. And this time, you know, I get to practice the brevity is the essence of wit axiom. So basically about me, my name is Scott Moore. I've been teaching yoga as a career since 2003, and I've been teaching Yoga Nidra since 2008. I have lived in Salt Lake City for a long time, teaching there, doing retreats and trainings and whatever. I've owned a couple of yoga studios. In 2017, I moved to Brooklyn, New York, and had a great chance to practice and teach there. It was wonderful. And then for the last year until this past January, I was living in the south of France with my family. We were sort of in between places to live, and we thought if we can live anywhere, why not the south of France? So we moved to the south of France. It was amazing. And it gave me a really excellent opportunity to practice exploring more of a global audience, which was really fun. I wrote a book about Yoga Nidra, and you know, so that's been a lot of fun to put that out there. And so now I'm back in Salt Lake City, and with a great honor and privilege to be able to work here with Aaron Aaron and I go back a long time, great friends, and we've been working in this, in this industry, in this area for a long time together. So that's a little bit about me. When I'm not meditating or practicing yoga, doing yoga nidra, I also like to write. Like I said, I wrote a book called Practical Yoga Nidra, and that came out in December, which was nice to kind of have that all happen. But in addition to that, I write regularly on my blog, which is scottmooreyoga.com. And then I write for this thing called Conscious Life News, as well as Elephant Journal, something called Savannah East, and Medium. And so I'm doing a fair bit of writing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but it's incredible what happens when you start to write about it. You know, in the process of trying to put it down on paper, so many things are illuminated about the subject as you're trying to organize it. It's strange, like it's all in there somehow, somewhere, and through the process of going through the craft of plinking it out on the keys, kind of downloads it into your soul. So that's been really fascinating. I consider my writing about yoga and yoga nidra, meditation and mindfulness, one of my greatest teachers for all of this. So I'm anxious to get into yoga nidra, and what I want to do is we'll have an official open. I want to share the peace chant with you, and I'm going to chant that in Sanskrit to begin, and then give you my favorite translation that I like of that. And then I thought we would do a little bit of some movement, some breath work, just to kind of change our state, from direct us toward getting into our yoga nidra. And once we get into there, then I want to do, if we can, 2 yoga nidra practices. We'll start off with one. We'll get a discussion going about yoga nidra, and then we'll hopefully have enough time at the end that we can do another practice. So let's relax. Take a deep breath in, everybody. Send a, from what you can hear to what you can feel, right? All the different things you might be experiencing. Let's just invite that into our experience. When you've invited it in, acknowledge it for what it is. Call it an emotion, or call it a sound, call it physical sensation. And then I invite you to practice just holding it, just be the witness of it. That's all we got to do. Let your jaw be soft. We'll kind of, set the conditions right for ourselves to settle. And I'm going to chant the peace chant. If you know it, you're welcome to chant along. I guess it's a silent meditation, so you can chant it in your mind, right? But nonetheless, whether you are listening to my words or chanting it in your mind, it's going to have the same effect. It's going to connect us together. I really believe that this chant speaks to ultimately what a lot of meditation, yoga nidra points to, is this finding ourselves to oneness, right? So here's my favorite version. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vahai Tomastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the divine protect us while we are together. May all obstacles be removed which stand in the way of our understanding the truth that all is one, and that there is no division or separation between us. May we grasp this understanding with full comprehension and without doubt, so that all misunderstanding is dissolved within us. May we not cherish hatred, anger, or displeasure. May our hearts be full of love, and may perfect friendship reign between us. May the space around us be free of fear. May the east and the west and the north and the south be free of fear. May the earth be free of fear. May past and future be free of fear. May we have no foes. May we all be friends. And may the entire human race unite in one fearless friendship. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste. So with that, I'm going to invite you to do some Ujjayi breath, some victorious breath, as we breathe in and out through the nostrils. Put a little whisper in the back of the throat. Allow the tip of your tongue to rest on the roof of your mouth. Feel yourself ground into your seat. Feel yourself both upright and alert, and yet relaxed at the same time. And once you've given yourself a couple rounds of Ujjayi breath, just start to move around through your trunk. Now, the quintessential question that we're going to explore through all parts of this practice is simply, what are you most aware of in this moment? And as you're moving around, you might be aware of the physical sensation, you might be aware of the movement itself, perhaps you're aware of the breath. Maybe you're attuned to energy and you're more feeling how energy feels vis-a-vis colors, shapes, textures, who knows? But we're just allowing ourselves to experience whatever it is that we're experiencing. We're inviting that into our experience. Switch directions if you haven't already. Then we're just acknowledging it for exactly what it is. Okay, that's a thought, that's an emotion, that's a sensation. And finally, you're just going to be the observer. Now, there's an optional fourth element, and that is to respond. So if you get that information, you hold that as good information, maybe you respond by changing your pose a little bit. I invite you to extend one leg out straight, right? Aaron said that you've done a lot of movement today. That's excellent. We're not going to do anything really, really crazy today. So send one leg out straight, reach over, grab your big toe with your peace finger, send your other arm up in the air, and take a gentle little side stretch, right? Now, the physical benefit we get from these poses are going to be largely secondary to the mere opportunity to practice being present. So as you're practicing welcoming the sensation of this posture into your body, acknowledging it as sensation and being the witness to that sensation, how could you then respond to that sensation? Could you go maybe a little bit deeper into the pose, perhaps bending your knee a little bit, right? Maintain this Ujjayi breath. And if it serves you, you might even bend your top elbow, put your hand behind your head as you cradle the back of your head in your hand, and you might get a little stretch running down the side of your body. I like to turn my trunk slightly upward toward the ceiling, and it gives me a little bit of a different flavor of this. It feels amazing. I hope you're feeling amazing. If it doesn't feel amazing, that's good information. Right? And we can maybe modify the pose to get into amazingness. Ease your way back out nice and slowly. So two options here. You can either just stay like this, put your hand behind you, and lean back with your other hand, cradling your head, opening up your chest. Or it might even serve you to prop up onto this bent knee and open up into this variation of like gateway pose. All options are optional. Therefore, if there's a way to do this in a way that serves you better based on the information that your body's giving you in this moment, go for it. Okay, ease your way back out of this thing and let's switch sides. Now, I'm still seated up on my meditation cushion, my zafu here, and I might even pull the flesh out from underneath the sitting bones to get as much of my skeleton rooted to the floor as possible. I'm going to reach over, grab whatever is comfortable. If that's my toe, great. If that's behind the calf or thigh, wonderful. Remember, touching your toes is not necessarily a demarcation of wellness, particularly if it rips all three of your hamstrings in the process, right? So take your arm up over your head, lean over into an exquisite stretch, maintain your Ujjayi breath. And if it serves you, remember, put your hand back behind your head, pull your head gently into your hand, and give yourself a couple of rounds of these full, complete breaths here. You're managing your own experience. I like to say that if you're not enjoying your experience, speak to your manager, right? Give yourself a break here. Remember, we're doing this for awareness first and foremost, and the health benefit comes as the byproduct of our awareness. In fact, I always say that our wellness is always going to be the byproduct of our awareness. So lean back and either just counterpose with your head in your hand, heart open up. If it serves you to prop up onto your knee and open up this way, great. Only you know how to figure out how to make yourself feel amazing. So work it out, even if, and especially if your pose is radically different than what I'm doing. Okay, ease your way back down out of this thing. And then from here, let's get into a little bit of breath practice. So if you know Nadi Shodhana, we're going to bring our right palm facing us. Descend your index finger and middle finger, option one, or you can place those two fingers on your Ajna chakra, the third eye center. Using your right thumb, you're going to close your right nostril and breathe out through the left nostril only. That's the feminine side, the cooling side. We're clearing that, and then you breathe in just through the left nostril. Then using the pads of your fourth and fifth finger, you're going to breathe out just through the right nostril and clearing the solar side, the masculine side, the energy side, right? And then breathing in to charge that up. And then you close. We'll be doing this back and forth as you're breathing, okay? So breathers, start your engines. Let's put our right thumb on our nostril, right nostril here. Breathe out through your left nostril. Jaw remains nice and soft. And then as you inhale, breathe back in through the left side. Closing off the left nostril, breathe out through the right nostril. And back in through the right nostril. These two, our two nostrils activate or access rather, two main energy channels, Ida and Pingala, which wrap around the Sushumna Nadi, the main energy center going through the body. And so everywhere those two cross creates one of our energy centers, the chakra points. And so essentially by taking and alternating your nostril breathing, you're essentially mixing warm and cold together, masculine, feminine, light, dark, warm, cold, all this stuff. So you have something that feels ultimately balanced at the end of the day. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. This is a very calming, neutralizing breathing practice, particularly if you're feeling a little bit, anxious. Great way to prime yourself for practicing meditation. If you're feeling a little lethargic, it'll bring your energy up to this beautiful place called Sattva, in the land of the gunas, these basic qualifiers. You've got tamas and rajas, and the perfect balance between inertia and energy is sattva. So this is a sattvic practice that's bringing us, to this nice spot. Okay. Now, just next time you breathe in through your right nostril, we'll finish the Nadi Shodhana. Come and do a couple more rounds of our practice, of our just regular Ujjayi practice. And if there's any way that you could release any tension now, maybe with a sigh out your mouth, or if you know lion's breath, if there's any tension you're feeling, let that go here. And then I want you to try to set yourself up into as relaxing a posture as possible. So I'm going to encourage you, like Shavasana, to lie down on your back, if that's comfortable for you, maybe with a blanket behind your head. If you have it, an eye pillow over your eyes, you could even grab a sock and put that over your eyes. And for the next several moments, I'm going to lead us through a Yoga Nidra practice. If you've never done it before, it'll feel like a guided meditation where I'm going to be layering you through different experiences of things to be aware of. There's no way to do this correctly or incorrectly. You're just along for the ride. Okay? So lie down, get very comfortable. Like I said, there's no way to do this right or wrong. Listen to my words. Follow along. Allow yourself to get relaxed, even if that means you start to drift off. In fact, we're going to use that kind of drift off state, as we'll talk about in a moment, as a secret doorway into experiencing yoga, oneness, right? So without trying to make any sort of grandiose proclamations, we're just going to relax here. Just lie down and take one more breath in through the nostrils and out through your mouth. From here on out, let yourself breathe completely naturally. If possible, remain still. But we're really going to just do 3, maybe 4 things through this practice. We're going to invite everything into our experience, whether that's by my suggestion or whether something arrives spontaneously. It could be a thought or an emotion, it could be sensation or sound. You're going to invite it into your experience. Secondly, you're just going to acknowledge it for what it is. Call it out. In your mind, you're thinking that's a sound, that's sensation, that's an emotion. And then you're going to acknowledge all the ways that affects your being. If it conjures images or makes you think of an idea or, memories pop up. You simply acknowledge it. And then lastly, or penultimately perhaps, you just are observant of it. You just observe it. End of story. Now with that information, you might once in a while be called on to respond, right? You're laying down there, minding your own business, your back starts to hurt. Invite it in. Acknowledge it as sensation in back. Even be curious about it. Simply observe it. If it persists, you've now had a moment to observe this thing, 10 seconds or so, then maybe you respond by changing your position, okay? Now, as we begin this Yoga Nidra practice, open yourself up to broad awareness. Again, nothing is good and nothing is bad. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It's just information. So notice what feels external to you. The sound of my voice, the temperature in the room. Maybe you're aware of other sounds or other sensations. Welcome it in. Acknowledge it for what it is. Just be the witness. Now choose something that is internal, an emotion, a thought, or internal sensation, and invite you to invite that into your field of awareness. Acknowledge it as a thought, as a sensation, or as an emotion. And merely be the observer of it. Just observe it. We don't have to fix anything today. We don't have to hold on to anything. You're just the observer. Now in this moment, I invite you to hear the sound of my voice. The words that I'm saying aren't even necessarily important. I'm just speaking to make sound. And you're hearing the sound of my voice and inviting my voice into your awareness. You are acknowledging it as sound, and you're merely observing the sound of my voice. It's not good, it's not bad, right or wrong. It's just information. Now in this moment, bring your attention back inward and start to feel the sensation of an emotion. Whatever emotion you've been feeling recently, if it feels safe, put your attention on that emotion and simply invite that to the floor. Acknowledge it as an emotion, a beautiful, very human part of your existence, and just be the observer. Now in this moment, don't try to think about this or try to make this make sense. We're moving beyond rational thinking here, but I want you to, at the same time, be aware of the sound of my voice while also feeling this emotion in your heart. And I want you to be aware of this simultaneously. You're aware of the sound of my voice and the feeling in your heart. You're aware of the sound of my voice and the feeling in your heart. Aware of the sound of my voice and the feeling of your heart. You might notice that one of these is internal, one of these feels external. One thing refers to you, the other refers to me. One is a sound, the other is emotion. And what these all have in common is that you are aware of them. And what we'll explore through our Yoga Nidra practice is that through all the many things you can be aware of, it illuminates awareness itself, that which doesn't change. So for the rest of this practice, I want to invite you to lean into the identity of awareness. Be awareness. practice awareness. You're experiencing yourself in the form of whatever you're aware of. Now, if you have a purpose for this meditation retreat, a desire in your heart, you've got something that you need, you feel like you could use from the universe, we're going to set this up as our sankalpa. This is a positive statement of truth that taps into the universal yes. This is our seed of intention that we will plant on the sacred altar of our heart. And through the practice of Yoga Nidra, we're going to cultivate the conditions right for the seed to grow and to bloom. So think about something you want, something you need, something grandiose like spiritual attainment, enlightenment, something practical like got to have a conversation with the cable guy, right? I need, to bone up on my finances or something, right? So whatever you feel you need doesn't need to be something grandiose, but it can be as grandiose as you want. And I invite you to create a phrase in your mind that is three things. It is specific. It's tapped into that universal positive, so it speaks to a yes. And it reflective in the now. So a perfect example of this is like an I am statement. I am on the road to fill in the blank. I am on the road to spiritual enlightenment. I am on the road to figuring out my internet issues, whatever it is. Right? I'm on the road to financial freedom, finding the love of my life, whatever it is. Say this like a mantra in your mind a few times, planting this seed on the sacred altar of your heart. And through our practice today, like I said, we're going to cultivate the conditions for this seed to grow and to bloom in your life. Let yourself get 10% more relaxed in this moment. Relax your face, relax your arms, relax your legs. Relaxation is one of our primary mechanisms for us to move into where we want to go today. Even if you get so relaxed, you start to fade, it's okay. Because the part of you that I'm speaking to is always paying attention. Now, before we go any further in our practice, bring to mind your inner oasis. Where is a place that you love to be? Your favorite place in the world. And this place could be fictitious. It could be an actual physical nuts and bolts kind of place. But I invite you to bring this place alive in your awareness by filling in the details using your senses. So bring this scene alive in your head. Where are you? Inside or are you outside? Where in this place you love to be? Are you inside or are you outside? Is it daytime or nighttime? Get specific. What season is it? Are you by yourself? Are you with other people? Not as if you're seeing yourself on a screen, but as if you're seeing with the eyes of your awareness. Bring the scene alive. See the colors, see the shapes. Smell the scent of this scene. And let that scent fill up your whole being. Quicken every cell in your body. Hear the sounds in this scene. If there are any tastes or flavors, associate that with the scene. Notice what your skin feels like. Is it warm? Is it cool? Do you feel the sun? Are you in the water? Are you dry? And then what emotion do you feel in this place, in this scene? And allow that emotion to rise to the surface in this moment. Now, this exists as a resource that is internal. The thoughts and memories, imagination, the visualization is the metaphor that helps to remove the layer from how you naturally feel. This is your natural comportment. In any real place or any imagined visualization of the place, they're all metaphors to help us uncover what is always and eternally inside. Okay, so you think of the scene, but the scene helps to reveal what is always and already inside of you. I want you to carry that comportment with you as we go through the rest of our practice. Listen to my words as we go a little bit deeper into our Yoga Nidra practice. Without changing anything about it, simply feel the sensation of body. Your body is not right or wrong, it's not good or bad, it's just information. And I want you to invite the sensation of your body into awareness. Acknowledge it as sensation. Acknowledge all the ways you're feeling sensation or how it might conjure or evoke other aspects of being, emotions or thoughts. And then ultimately just hold the sensation of your body in awareness. Just observe it. That's all you got to do. Now, specifically, bring your attention to the sensation of mouth without changing it or doing anything about it. Feel the sensation of lips, of teeth, of tongue. Change now and feel the sensation of your eyes. Nothing to do about eyes other than to acknowledge their presence, to practice welcoming them into your awareness. Acknowledge them as weight, as presence, as sensation. And just be the observer of sensation of eyes. Now of ears. Of nose. And just be curious about the entire plane of your face, from the top of your forehead, down your eyebrows, across your eyelids, cheekbones, nose, upper lip, lower lip, chin. Curious about the planes of your cheeks as if you had never felt them before, experiencing them for the first time. Now, bring your attention to the sensation of the top of your head and the back of your head, your entire scalp, from the top of your forehead all the way back around to the base of your skull. Ear to ear, feel your entire scalp as sensation. Remember what it feels like when somebody gives you a scalp massage, where you've just put some eucalyptus oil or something in your scalp and your scalp is alive with that tingling sensation. Adopt that feeling to the surface. Notice, even by its suggestion, how you can bring that sensation alive in your scalp. Now, bring your attention back to the sensation of face and remember what it feels like when you've just had a facial. Invite that feeling to the surface. Or if you don't get a lot of facials, maybe you remember when you've just washed your face with a warm washcloth and all your pores feel alive and open. Now go back to the scalp. Go back to feeling the sensation of scalp. You're just inviting that sensation of scalp, acknowledging it as sensation, and being the witness to sensation of scalp. Now go back to face again. Nothing to do about face other than be aware of it as sensation. Now in this moment, feel both you're feeling your entire head, not either scalp nor face. You're feeling them as one orb of sensation. Now, in one moment, you might be aware of face, and the next moment, you might be aware of scalp. And as you bring these together, they reveal the thing that they have in common, which is awareness. Be awareness itself. And as awareness, experience yourself now as the sensation of throat and neck. You might start to notice yourself getting more relaxed. Let yourself go wherever you need to go, even if that means falling asleep. If possible, we're going to achieve a state of relaxed alertness. Nonetheless, if your conscious mind goes to sleep, that's okay. We're not talking to that part of you anyway. As awareness itself, feel yourself as collarbones, as the sensation of shoulders. Let your attention rest on the sensation of your left arm from shoulder to fingertips. And in particular, pay attention to the sensation of your left thumb. There's nothing to do about it. You're just merely curious. Now, as awareness itself, feel yourself as right arm, shoulder to fingertips. Nothing to do about it. Not as two separate objects. Feel them as one thing. You're aware of both thumbs simultaneously. So pause and just notice whatever you happen to be aware of in this moment, internal or external. And while what you're aware of is going to change, awareness itself stays the same. Be awareness itself, experiencing itself in your thousands of forms. As awareness itself, feel yourself now as the sensation of chest and belly. Feel the sensation of back. I want you to welcome the sensation of pelvis. Acknowledge it as a sensation. Acknowledge anything that might spontaneously arise as you bring attention to the sensation of pelvis. Merely observe. Now bring your attention to the sensation of your legs, hips to knees, knees to ankles, ankles to toes. Without changing anything, feel the entire left side of body. And bring attention now to the entire right side of body. Left side again. Right side. In this moment, feel the sensation of your entire body. Simply observe body as sensation. Open up again to broad awareness. Anything that you might be aware of internally or externally, you're simply going to invite that to the party, acknowledge it for what it is, and just be the observer. The things you're aware of changes, yet they reveal an unchanging awareness. Be the unchanging awareness. As awareness, without changing it, notice the feeling of your breath. Notice any and all ways in which you might feel energy in this moment. Energy can feel like a vitality, can feel like a dullness or a heaviness. May feel like a coolness or a warmth. What are all the ways that you might feel energy in this moment? And if you're not particularly tuned to energy, that's fine. Just stick with the feeling of your breath. So whether that's just with breathing, or maybe you're aware of energies, perhaps you can sense auras, these kinds of things. Bring your attention to this notion of energy. Invite it in. Acknowledge any and all ways in which you are experiencing energy in this moment. And merely be the observer. Now choose a part of your body and begin to focus your energy into that part of your body. Or it's a part of you that maybe needs a little bit of extra vitality or some healing. If you're mainly focusing on your breath, feel yourself breathing into that area. Or if you see energy in the form of a color, visualize that color moving into that area, or through movement. Any way you experience energy, allow that to move into the part of your body that could use a little bit more vitality. Now choose a part of your body that maybe, already feels a lot of vitality, and just bring your attention to that area. Where's a part of your body that already feels a lot of vitality? Focus your attention, your energy on that part. Either you're imagining or visualizing your breath moving into that area, or seeing that color, or any way which you manifest energy, you see it moving into that part. Now in this moment, bring your attention to both parts simultaneously. The part that feels vital and alive, as well as the part that needs that vitality and aliveness. And you're feeling energy rest simultaneously in these two parts. Now, energy by its nature is volatile. It's going to come, it's going to go. But the fact that you can be aware of energy is the underlying quality of beingness that is illuminated as you practice watching the changeability of energy. Your awareness itself, experiencing itself in this moment in the form of energy. Now, without changing them, simply notice your thoughts. Like you're watching them on a screen, there's nothing to focus on, there's nothing to try to push away. There's nothing to change about your thoughts. You're just noticing yourself thinking. And notice if the thoughts are moving quickly or slowly. Acknowledge all the ways in which your thoughts tend to affect you, whether that is conjuring emotions, right? Evoking memories. Try to just remain curious about thinking. What is the part of you that can simply watch yourself think? What is the part of you that can just watch yourself think? Now, like other parts of your being, you may have thoughts, but what you are is so much bigger than thinking. Be the part of you that can observe thoughts. Through your thoughts, you begin to reveal the part of you that doesn't change, awareness itself. I invite you to go with me on a mental journey. See yourself walking down a long hallway. And as you go down this hallway, you can feel your feet moving step by step down the hallway. Your arms are swaying at your side. and you're moving further and further down this hallway. Step by step, you feel yourself moving further and further down this hallway. You can hear your footsteps, feel your arms swaying at your side. You can hear the movement of your clothes as you're walking further and further down this hallway. At the end of this hallway, there's a door, and as you open up the door, there's a well-lit room with one piece of furniture in it, and that's a full-length mirror. And as you walk up to this full-length mirror, you see the reflection of yourself. Greet the reflection in the mirror and notice what you think about it. You believe something about this reflection. You see somebody who is successful or not successful, somebody who is pretty or not pretty, right? Somebody who is together or not together, who knows what. But remember, you're not trying to judge or change or do anything. You're just noticing, what do you believe about that image in the mirror? And you're going to welcome the belief, merely acknowledge it as a belief, and just observe the belief. Now for a moment, what is the opposite of that belief? What does that opposite belief feel like when you hold it as true? Again, what is the opposite of that belief? And what does it feel like when it is true? Perhaps it evokes something in your body, feeling or sensation, thought. Now imagine you're holding both of these thoughts, both of these beliefs, one in one hand and the other in the other hand, but you're holding them simultaneously. You're holding one belief in one hand and the other in the other hand, but you're holding them simultaneously. What is the part of you that is larger than beliefs? Now, walk all the way through this room. See yourself walking into a door on the far side of this room. And in this new room, there's a scene that brings you enormous joy. Remember or imagine a time of great joy, of love, bliss, excitement. Remember or imagine a great time of love, of joy, of bliss, excitement. Using your senses again, fill in the details. Are you by yourself? Are you with other people? What is that joy? What is that excitement? What does that love feel like? Where do you feel it in your body? Notice all the ways that love, that joy, that excitement fills you up. Notice how that feels in your body. Stay with the feeling of it. In this deep place in your awareness, if you can remember it, repeat your sankalpa, your positive statement of truth. You're embedding this deeply in your subconscious, in your unconscious. You're placing it here like a program that will continue to run, even when you're not thinking about it. Now I want you to hold that feeling in your body. You can let the memory of it go. You're going to carry this emotion with you, this feeling of joy, of bliss, of love. By the way, this was always already inside of you. You're just uncovering a natural part of your own being. Okay, and then from here, I want you to go back into the room and you're just going to be curious, holding yourself as awareness, curious about the image in the mirror and the part of you that can hold beliefs. Walk back out into the hallway. Remember this visualization we had as you find yourself walking back up the hallway, the direction you came from, carrying this joy, this bliss, this excitement or love, carrying that with you in your body. Find yourself walking further and further back up the hallway, step by step, back up the hallway, the direction you came. And you find yourself back in this realm of your thoughts, just curious about the fact that you're thinking, observing the part of yourself that can watch thinking. Notice how energy feels in your body, vital energy, dull energy. Notice the natural movement of energy. Then come back to the feeling of your body, the tactile sensation of palms of your hands, the soles of your feet. Feel the back of your head, your sacrum, your belly. Just be curious about whether or not you are able to get relaxed. And remember, there's absolutely no achievement. So just be curious about the degree to which you were able to get relaxed. So in a moment, we will be coming out of our Yoga Nidra practice. But before we do, I invite you to remember your sankalpa, that positive statement of truth, maybe that I am statement, I am on the road to fill in the blank, or I have everything inside of me that I need for fill in the blank. And you can take a moment and remember what time of day it is, and remember what day of the week it is, and feel your body on the floor here. You can feel the breath moving in and out. So again, in a moment, we will finish our Yoga Nidra practice, but because we've been able to do this deep practice today, because we've been able to lean into such deep presence, we've opened ourselves up to experience a true version of our biggest self. With that perspective, we'll be able to move back into our everyday lives with clarity. Like I said, with perspective, we can see our problems for what they are. We'll be able to have an immense source of power and drive to do those things we want to do. We will be grounded in a layer of compassion for ourselves and the world that will be unprecedented. Our minds will be clearer in our meditations. So I'm going to count down from 5, and this will signal the end of our Yoga Nidra practice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yoga Nidra is over. So if you are awake enough to hear my words, maybe start to deepen your breath just a little teeny bit. You might choose to move fingers and toes a little bit. Give yourself a moment as you gently roll over to one side. We are in no rush. And eventually we'll come back upright to our seated position. And when you do come up to a seated position, if you choose to, you might reach your arms up to the sky. Give yourself kind of a nice Saturday morning stretch. Before we bring our hands together back down to our hearts. And if you care to join me, we'll finish this Yoga Nidra practice with one Om. And again, you can just sound this in your mind. If we're sticking to silence, you're welcome to sound this in your mind. Namaste. Well, I hope you enjoyed Yoga Nidra. If you are soundly asleep, then you can watch the recording later. This is often known as the yoga of sleep, not only because a lot of people fall asleep in Yoga Nidra, and for some teachers that's kind of taboo, and others, myself included, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with falling asleep in Yoga Nidra. Like I've said, the part of you that I'm speaking to is paying attention nonetheless, right? I'd be interested to hear anybody's take on what that was like. If you have any immediate questions or responses to Yoga Nidra, you're welcome to type that in, and maybe Aaron could read that. Or if Aaron has anything he'd like to say about Yoga Nidra, I'd love to hear that. But before I dive into a discussion about it, maybe I'd love to hear anything that you'd like to say or any processing. Yeah, so questions, comments, anything, maybe collect yourself and type something in there if you wish.
Can Yoga Nidra cause astral projection or lucid dreaming?
Absolutely. Yoga Nidra is an excellent, for people who are interested in yoga, in lucid dreaming, definitely Yoga Nidra is an excellent way of practicing getting there. I tend not to try to fall asleep using Yoga Nidra. Like if I'm trying to go to sleep in bed, I try not to lead myself through a Yoga Nidra practice in order to get there. Some people do that and that's fine. But for me personally, it puts me into a lucid dream state, which is fun, and I'm flying all night long, but I get like the worst sleep ever. I'm not very rested. So personally, I don't do that. And I have also experienced lucid dreaming as the result of Yoga Nidra. And it's a great way of practicing if that's a state you want to get into regularly. And astral projections, absolutely. I can tell you by personal experiences, I have seen the cosmos through Yoga Nidra. And it's been incredible. It's amazing. For me, that's, again, a byproduct of presence. And presence has taken me very many places. And one of those has been through cosmos. The very first psychedelic experience I've ever had in my life was tripping on Yoga Nidra. So take that for what it's worth. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. At any time, you're welcome to type in and chime in with comments or questions. I want to talk a little bit about what Yoga Nidra is and how it can, Yoga Nidra can help to anchor our emotions in our body as we downregulate our nervous system. And through discussion and our Yoga Nidra practice, I want to practice sort of becoming the beautiful witness of our life. I think that's really sort of what Yoga Nidra is pointing to, is just practicing living a life well lived. The late, great Leonard Cohen said, if your life is burning well, then poetry is just the ash, right? And I think too, like our practice, it helps us to just live that life well, so that our life is an extension of our practice is an extension of our life. And we're really essentially just practicing being a human being, waking up to know ourselves as the divine through this experience. So presence is the secret doorway to understanding our true self. And Yoga Nidra is perhaps one of my favorite relaxing way of celebrating that changeable and textured part of our being, all of which illuminates the fact that we can pay attention, illuminates awareness itself. And what we are practicing in Yoga Nidra, we're practicing awareness. So we're going to use our body as one of our main anchors, not only like what we just did in our Yoga Nidra practice, but we're going to discuss ways in which we can use body through the presence and that 3 key: welcome, recognize, witness, or to invite, to acknowledge, to observe. Those 3 things to practice seeing our lives with a layer of objectivity that gives us not to see our life as something that is inconsequential, but on the complete opposite, to be able to open our experience, open up our experience to see our life as this, essentially this love note from the universe, a love note to the universe. And I'm really interested in this notion of what I call our both and nature, right? And Yoga Nidra comes from the school of thought from Tantra, and Tantra, especially the kind that I subscribe to, like to lean into, is a non-dualist philosophy. And it suggests that everything in the universe exists in one large thing, that there is no true realm of this or that, but somehow everything exists in a this and that. So I call that the both and nature. And a good way to describe this is the yin and yang symbol. The yin and yang is neither the yin nor the yang, but the yin yang, which is interdependent upon itself. The white dot is in the black paisley, the black dot is in the white paisley, right? And so it's this one thing, it's the yin yang, characterized by 2 things. We too are these beautiful, ephemeral, numinous, spiritual beings that are having this textured, tangible, finite experience. And so there's this interesting paradox, and Yoga Nidra is perhaps my favorite way of dancing that marriage between those 2. And that's what I'm talking, the both and nature. And in fact, we're privy to, there's a tool that I like to use quite a bit to sort of obliterate the idea of a binary, is to first, through our lean into our egoic realm, and I'm going to break this down a little bit later, but to lean into the ego by suggesting a binary, a right and a left, your face and your scalp, right? And, inside, outside, all these things, I'll create a binary, we lean into one, we lean into the other. And then when we hold them together, whether we're holding a belief, whether I'm holding 2 parts of my body in energetic synergy, whether I'm holding my face and my head, simultaneously, it's a mechanism to open me up into what I call stereoscopic consciousness. So if I close one of my eyes, the world is flat. I'm in a single dimension. Everything just exists as flat. I'm in a simple singularity. And I can now change the other eye, and the world is still flat, but I get a little bit different perspective. And now there's a binary. There's a this and there's a that, right? So this interesting thing happens in my vision because my eyes are separated and they're looking at things just a little bit differently. The combination of those 2 together creates a depth, okay? Depth of my vision. Similarly, like that, when I create those 2 things and hold them, these apparent opposites, and hold them together, in order to hang with that, I have to expand out of the binary realm and hold myself into that place that exists not in any binary, in a place of just awareness. And from that place, it's like I'm holding a problem in my hand, and I can see through all the peripheral vision how what I am is truly larger than the problem. So that's that's a way of explaining what this both and nature is. And yoga nidra is a fascinating and interesting and relaxing way of coming into that very esoteric, advanced experience, right? Now, again, our purpose for doing yoga nidra, just like our purposes for starting a yoga or meditation practice, could be something to just like get better rest, right? To learn how to relax a little bit more. These kinds of things, all of which yoga nidra helps with. The same way I might start off a yoga practice by just toning my body and getting some sort of, cross training on my off days so I can keep my athleticism up. That could be the reason why I jump into my yoga practice. But one of the presuppositions that I love in yoga is that everything is connected, body, mind, and spirit. So you may lean into the body realm and you get the mind and spirit automatically. It just comes along for the ride. It comes with a package, right? Similarly, I may not come to yoga nidra for spiritual enlightenment, for spiritual growth. I may come to just learn how to relax a little bit more. But in so doing, I inevitably learn more about myself in the process. Certainly I have, not to say that that is everybody's path, but regardless, because everything is connected, sorry, we're all on this road of self-discovery together. And I'm here to tell you that whether that's through yoga nidra, through sports, through art, through politics, whatever it is, as long as you can practice presence, that will take you there. Right? That yoga nidra is just one of my favorite ways of practicing presence. Okay. And when we do practices like meditation, right, like yoga, things like this, it's a refined way of practicing presence. But remember, there are many paths that will take you to the top of the mountain. And when you've been there, and I would argue that we all have at one time or other, it is our essence. It's where we come from. It's our antecedent. We've all been there. We all come from there. Right? We're all reaching there because it feels like it's just right there, right at our fingertips. When we get there and when we have those regular experiences with it, we will also lead others there from our own experience rather than saying, this is the one path to get up there, right? Yoga nidra just happens to be one of my favorite ones. It's like you get to nap your way to enlightenment. It's fantastic. Like you show up there to heaven and you've got like this big drool running down your mouth. I just think it's a fantastic image. So, and so if anything, if presence is the secret sauce, my body is such a simple and fantastic tool to help with that presence. And so we're going to talk about that. Before we do so, I want to talk about what is yoga and what is nidra, because, people get kind of confused. Yoga nidra, they show up, and they've got like leg warmers on and stretchy pants and stuff. Are we going to do some yoga? Well, yeah, but it is doing yoga, but maybe it's a more nuanced version of yoga. So yoga as classically defined, like in the Yoga Sutras, for example, yoga as defined in the Yoga Sutras is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind, right? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. It's calming things down to stillness to experience samadhi, to experience the end goal, which is the feeling of being at one with all things, right? And there's a prescription of ways to get there, all of which mechanize, if you will, presence in order to arrive there, whether that's through my outward observances, my inward observances, my asana, right, pranayama, or withdrawal from the senses, my leaning into focus, this and the other. It's bringing me to that place where I can arrive to the tangible experience of oneness. And I would make a distinction between the practice of yoga and the experience of yoga. The experience of yoga is samadhi, right? Is that oneness. Again, it's where we all come from. It's who we are fundamentally. We come from there and we spend our entire lives working this big circle all the way back there, but not, again, at a place of innocence or naivete, rather at a place of wisdom that we've gained through the practice of our meditation, of our yoga practice, right? So yoga is arriving to this experience of oneness. yoga practice is setting the conditions right. It's putting all the flagstones down that help me to arrive to that place that when we get there, it will be both a discovery and a revelation at the same time. It's like, oh yeah, it was right there. I knew it was there because I could feel that within me. This is nothing that I didn't have anyway. And what yoga and meditation ultimately teaches is that what you're searching for isn't out there. It's in here. And the only way you can get there is by dropping in, to discover that what you're searching for, you already have the keys to, right? And again, sometimes we need some teachers to help us to kind of learn how to unlock, figure out what that combination is, right? But it's through the presence, it's through our practice that we get there. You know, it's through the practice that we learn what it is that's inside. It's like we've all been born with a Ferrari. We just need to figure out how to turn where the ignition is. You know what I mean? Oh, it's right here. Wow, this thing drives really fast. This is amazing. So if yoga is that connection of oneness of all things, and we can sort of help ourselves arrive to this place through our practice, Nidra, therefore, is one of the modes by which we get a chance to practice coming into oneness. And Nidra in Sanskrit refers to the idea of sleep, but more appropriately, Nidra means that liminal hypnagogic state between waking and dreaming. It's the daydream state. That's why Nidra works so well for astral projection as well as lucid dreaming, because it puts us in a place that isn't quite full on dreaming, although it can take us there too, that isn't quite all the way awake, into that secret pocket, a doorway that helps us experience a consciousness that fuzzes out the otherwise very rigid confines that our egoic mind has set up for ourselves. Our egoic mind says, this is what reality is. I know because I built it. Remember that your egoic mind, your rational thinking, is part of the problem. It was built in the matrix, so to speak, right? And it is trying to make sense of the world based on the rules that it set for itself. It's like a computer in a room that doesn't understand that there's anything else in the universe besides itself, right? So what Nidra does is puts us into this relaxed state enough that you can fuzz the lines of that otherwise very rigid place to experience that both and nature. I am both experiencing the rational, finite, egoic realm of my being, as well as the infinite, conscious spiritual part of my being having a conversation together. So in that way, yoga nidra could be like a bridge, and it bridges very many things. It ultimately bridges binaries into oneness, ergo yoga, right? Experiencing oneness. It bridges my finite and my infinite self, right? It bridges my senses and my awareness, right? It bridges Shiva and Shakti. All these things bridge together, and the bridge is this relaxing mode called Nidra, okay? So Yoga Nidra acts like a guided meditation, as you well may experience. It is yoga in the sense that we are bringing ourselves to awareness, not through the movement of our body, but just by the awareness of body, right? So in that way, it's a much more subtle form of yoga, which incidentally, I love to insert into my asana classes as well. In my restore classes, or maybe even after I've had a long yoga workshop and people just really need to bring their nervous system down, I'll lead them through a yoga nidra practice, and that really helps to, put people into that wonderful state, that both and conscious. We've just explored this, 90 minutes of amazing asana, and we've been doing handstands and back bends, and the body is primed and the energy is going, and my mind is just like focused. And now I can bridge that to consciousness, to awareness, by leading people through yoga nidra. Okay, so that's what yoga is. That's what nidra is. I want to talk briefly about the ego versus the true self. So the true self is what Tantra suggests is what we are fundamentally is awareness. That is our true identity. Or, we are consciousness. What we are is pure consciousness coming to know itself through all the things that we might be aware of, right? So we have on one side something that is, and the other side something that isn't. And what is our true self. Our true self is formless. It otherwise can't be known. It just exists as beingness. It is beingness itself. And on the other side is the ego, or anything that is in the realm of the changeable, right? The changeable can be here one moment and not the next. And so the ego, one of my favorite definitions of the ego is by Eckhart Tolle, who in his book, A New Earth, describes it, I think, very succinctly when he says, the ego is the misapprehension of what I think I am, right? So it's the leaning into my physical body, for example, when I get identified as this thing, and I think that's what I am, but then I see it changing, right? And I think, well, what is that part of me that doesn't change, even though there's this constantly changing part of me, right? And in yoga, they explore 5 layers of the ego they call Maya Kosha. And this is sort of a subtle body exploration. The Maya means illusion, and Kosha means a sheath or a body. And so the Maya Kosha are these layers in which I can experience the ego. And there are several, but we went through 5 today, and they go from gross to subtle. We went through the Anamaya Kosha, which is the body layer. Ways to practice experiencing the illusion of self in the form of body, right? So, and what I like to say, the ego is real enough, meaning like you've got this hand and it feels real, right? I've got all the senses and stuff like this, but the hand itself is constantly changing. Even if we're looking at the biological level, these cells are being born and they're dying. It is getting older, and I could even, if I had an accident, I didn't have a hand anymore, there's still a beingness that is part that I exist with or without a hand. All that said, meaning that I cannot fully define myself by body. I think even a better example is fingernails, right? My fingernails seem like a real part of me, right? They're right here. They go with me wherever I go, right? And then they get long and I decide to trim them. And suddenly there's part of me that's laying in the wastebasket. Certainly not me anymore. Oh no, gross, right? So what used to be me just seconds ago is suddenly not me anymore. And right, all these molecules in the air that aren't me, this is me, but this is the molecules on. Well, suddenly now these things are me. What used to be me is not me anymore, right? So what is me is this constant flux. It's more of an idea, right? And so that's what the Maya Kosha explores. What are all these ways in which I misidentify as self, right? And so the Anamaya Kosha is the most gross. It's the most physical. It's the easiest one to tap into because we're getting information all the time. It's such an excellent way of practicing presence because it's right here. I can feel it, right? And it's constantly giving me an opportunity to practice paying attention. Next, more subtle, is the Prana Maya Kosha, which refers to the energy layer connected to our breath. It's prana. Some people experience prana in colors, movement. Some people just feel their breath, right? Prana kind of links into somewhat into our emotions. These kinds of things. Next, more subtle, is our thoughts, right? Thoughts are definitely in the realm of the changeable. Anybody's mind ever change about anything? All the time, right? If you could see like the screenshot of my mind, it'd be somebody with like the remote control and like rapid fire thumb, like, right? My thoughts are constantly in flux. And I don't know what your experience was like in our yoga nidra practice, where we got the opportunity to practice observing thoughts, right? So there's obviously part of me that can hang and observe thinking, right? So while I have thoughts, what I am is not thoughts, right? So my thinking can go and whatever, but I'm anchored in the part of me that doesn't change, that is awareness, okay? even more subtle still, by the way, that was called the Manamaya Kosha, with the mind, the same root where we get the word mantra from. And then there's a big word, Vijnanamaya Kosha. This is where we go into our beliefs, archetypes, the collective unconscious, the collective consciousness, right? Symbols, dreams. This is, again, a more subtle part of our being. And then even subtler still is a layer of joy, is a layer of happiness, a layer of bliss, called the Anandamaya Kosha, right? So we went through those sequentially. We kind of started our journey of awareness and kind of cultivated some of these back and forth, these ins and outs, these opposites, holding that, starting to identify as awareness through the form of the koshas. So at first I used to think that, oh, what I'm supposed to do in this practice is to be able to notice and recognize all the koshas to see that's not me. But what I am is this like ephemeral, numinous, spiritual being that is just beingness itself. So, ego be damned. What my true self is this other thing. And I've since come to learn through the practice of Yoga Nidra that my truest being is this both and nature. Invariably, inextricably, I am tied to this body. I am tied to the ego. I am tied to all of this. As my consciousness exists, my consciousness is coming to know itself through the greatest tool I have, which is this thing right here, which is this smell that I'm smelling right in this moment, the fantastic smell of hand sanitizer. I know myself through hand sanitizer. Namaste, right? Whatever it is that helps you pay attention, that's it. That is the most sacred thing in this moment. It's the most sacred thing that could ever be, is because, again, it is pointing to now. Right? So if an emotion arises, right? If a thought comes, right? Has anybody heard that Hafiz poem, The Guest House? Is it Rumi or Hafiz? I think it's Hafiz. And he says, this being human is a guest house. Every day, a new arrival. A joy, a meanness, a depression, invite them all in, right? Essentially, he's pointing to the idea, like, you run a bed and breakfast and you have no idea who's going to show up at your door. But the last line is, everybody is a gift from beyond. Everything that arrives is a gift to show you. And if we can see everything like that, then we place ourselves in a marvelous, relationship with the world, instead of being something in the world is like bombarding me with all these things. And it wouldn't be nice if just life were easy once in a while. Then I can make my way to enlightenment. It reminds me again, yet another Leonard Cohen poem lyric where he says in his song Anthem, ring the bells that still can ring, forget the perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. And that's how the light gets in. What he's saying, even his rhyme is broken, which I think is phenomenal. Only Leonard Cohen can make something so beautiful and perfect. But what he's saying is that we are perfect, not despite our weaknesses, not despite our brokenness. We are perfect because of our brokenness, right? It is all those seemingly broken things about ourselves. It is the broken heart. It is the aging body. It is anything that helps us pay attention. It doesn't necessarily have to be a broken thing, right? But anything that helps us pay attention is the gateway to understanding our true self, right? Understanding presence. And Yoga Nidra, again, systematizes this and brings us into a deeper and deeper awareness by bringing things in and start to lean into the ego to see, like, oh, isn't that interesting? I can be aware of body. Oh, isn't that interesting? I can be aware of energy. Oh, isn't that interesting? Look at that emotion. Wow. Oh, and my thoughts. And I start to less and less identify as all the things I can be aware of, and more identify as awareness itself. Awareness coming to know itself in all the things I can be aware of. And I think my favorite way to illustrate this is through my rendition of this story about Shiva and Shakti, right? And it sort of spells out the human experience, I think, perfectly. So here you've got an idea of the this ancient Vedic idea called Purusha, which is the beingness of all things, and that's sort of anthropomorphized into the god Shiva, who he's just pure consciousness. He's in constant meditation. His eyes are closed. He has this lidless third eye that is always paying attention. Now, his perfect counterpart is Shakti or Prakriti, which is movement, which is form, right? Prakriti is anthropomorphized as Shakti. And she's a woman and she's a dancer and she's all about shape and form and she likes to smell nice and she's always dancing for her beloved. And they're in this beautiful but simple singularity, this vacuum of existence where she cannot make a move, but that he is always 100% paying attention to her. This is the way he loves her. He loves her by noticing her. Likewise, she loves him by moving for him, right? And that's the only thing he wants is something to be aware of, right? Her, to be aware of her. And the only thing that she wants is him to be aware of her, and she only wants to move for him. So they're in this beautiful dance. Well, Shakti is a fun-loving gal, and she is actually programmed for change. That's her whole nature is change. And she's like, hey, you know what? We've been in this dance for, forever, right? Time doesn't even exist. We exist in this moment forever. What would happen if I were to come back around and I were to close that third eye for a moment? So she does her kind of dance around behind him and she slips her hands over that third eye, and for a brief second in the universe, there wasn't a balance between the beingness and the form. There was only form and energy, and therefore the whole universe goes boom into this, ball of fire. It's like the Big Bang, right? And so as form, here's Shakti, and she's reeling through space, and she lets out this guttural moan, Om, and delivers the first sound of the universe, Om. And in this, then she creates, she's in this realm of the binary. She creates darkness and lightness. Time now is a thing. Now she begins to coalesce matter, and everything begins to coalesce into this world. And she finds herself on this world, and all these beautiful things. There's trees, and there's water, and there's all this, but constantly she's calling out to her beloved, Shiva, where are you? Where are you? I would have never played this joke if I would have realized it would have separated me from you. So now she's in this realm of this binary. There's a this and a that. There's a me and a you. And she feels broken, right? She's in the realm of that brokenness, that lostness. And she's walking around one day and she leans in to grab a drink of water from the brook. And through the babbling of the brook as the water rolling over the stones, she hears in that sound the sound of Shiva's voice. And she's thrilled. She pops up and she's looking around and she calls out, Shiva, where are you? I would have never played this joke if I would have realized it would have separated me from you. And she's looking around. She can't see him anywhere. And she gets more despondent, more depressed. Well, later she's walking through this forest, and in the forest, she sees, or she's sitting there, this big gale wind comes up and it's starting to move all the trees, and everything is kind of scintillating. The leaves are alive, and everything in this sort of cacophony of movement of the trees is kind of rustling. And in that din, she hears the sound of Shiva's voice, and she's calling up into the branches. She's looking around the trunks. She's calling out to her beloved, Shiva, where are you? I would have never played this joke if I would have realized it would have separated me from you. Well, still no Shiva, and she's ever more depressed and sad. And so she's walking one day through this big, beautiful field, and her senses are totally alive. She's there and she's experiencing the sun on her skin and the smell of the earth, and she's hearing bird song, and just everything is alive. And in the symphony of her senses, she hears very softly one more time the sound of Shiva's voice. But this time she decides to come down. She sits down and she does what Shiva always did. She closes her eyes And she starts to pay even more attention. She leans into the sound and the smell, and the richness of her senses are really locking her into the moment. And the more she does that, the louder the voice comes, and she can hear her name over and over. And it's saying, Shakti, Shakti, I'm right here. I never left you. I've always been here. Nothing in the universe can exist without me, the same way nothing in the universe can exist without you. We are the marriage where everything exists. Everything exists in the marriage of us two. And she opens up her eyes and she gets it now. She doesn't see birds and trees and grass anymore. She sees Shiva and herself dancing in the form of birds and grass and trees. She gets it, right? So she went full circle back to that dance. She came back to the dance, but no longer in any simple singularity. She gave birth to all things, that third perspective, that third dimension of beingness. She, like we separate ourselves from source to come to have this earthly experience. And through all the things that we might be aware of, and by practicing presence, we come to see our own and universal underlying beingness in whatever we can be aware of. So again, we come to celebrate that dance and revel in that marriage of Shiva and Shakti, consciousness and form. The beauty of our lives with all their vicissitudes, the ups and the downs and the COVID and the joblessness, and, I'm trying my best to do this meditation retreat, and there's that damn dog next door that just doesn't stop barking. You got all of that in the dance, while nonetheless I can practice being present. And like Leonard Cohen suggested, it is the barking dog that for me in this moment is the gateway to truth, to everything. And at first I would have dismayed the ego, dismayed the barking dog, dismayed those hurt emotions as something I'm trying to transcend on my way to something higher. But in truth, that is the gateway to the higher thing. And I know it's the gateway because it's the thing that's knocking on my door. It's what I'm most aware of in this moment. And, and my job, especially with Yoga Nidra, it's my job isn't to try to pretend that doesn't exist. I'm going to just Zen my way into something that is bigger and better than I'm experiencing in the moment. No, instead, welcome it in. Acknowledge it for what it is. Practice observing it. Rest in awareness. Drop the mic. Walk out of the room. Thank you very much. That's it, right? And it really doesn't have to be that much more complicated. There are myriad ways to experience and express and practice presence. Yoga Nidra is my absolute favorite way to do it. And it has taught me so much about this experience. I think we have enough time for one more short practice, and I hope that people have some comments and questions. So let's see if we can just do another quick practice, and then if there's any time left over, maybe we can throw down quickly. Maybe we can get it in there a little bit quicker because of this. This won't be quite as long, but if you have the wherewithal, lie down, relax. Take a breath into the nostrils and then out through your mouth. This will kind of be our truncated version. So again, breath in through the nostrils, out through the mouth, and just relax. Be aware of whatever you're aware of in the moment. Open to broad awareness, sounds, emotions, sensations. Agree to welcome, recognize, and witness things exactly as they are. Take a moment and feel the sensation of your body. Adopt that quality of nothing being good or bad. It's just information in the moment. And as information, I want you to adopt a quality of just being curious, curiously aware of the sensation of body. Bring your attention to the sensation of body. You're merely curious and aware of body as sensation. Again, bring broad awareness to the sensation of face and head, arms, fingertips, chest and belly and back. Bring awareness to the sensation of pelvis, of legs. Feel the sensation of your entire body and feel your entire body as large. There's nothing to do about it, but you're adopting the feeling of largeness. Now, adopt the feeling of smallness. Your body feels very small. Adopt largeness again. You're large, looking down at something small, like a grain of sand, like an ant. You're large, looking down upon something that is small. Now you're small, looking up at something immense, looking into the abyss. Now you're small, looking up at something immense, as if into the abyss. Now don't try to make this work. This is going to work beyond logic. In this moment, you are simultaneously large and small. In this moment, you are simultaneously large and small. Nothing to do, nothing to try to figure out. You're both small and large. You're a box within a box. Now I invite you to bring to the surface, if it feels safe, bring to the surface an emotion that you've been working with lately. And if you've been working with some serious emotions that you would rather not work with today, that's fine. Choose a more benign emotion, but regardless, either emotion of your choice or one that you've been working with lately, if it feels safe, bring that to the surface. Welcome it in. Acknowledge all the ways in which this emotion affects you. Does it conjure emotions, other thoughts? Does anything spontaneously arise into your awareness? Now, what is the opposite of that emotion? And again, if that doesn't feel safe, just choose another emotion that is relatively benign. What is the opposite of that emotion? Now, don't get attached to it. Go back to the first emotion. Notice all the ways that you're affected by that first emotion. Then go back to your second emotion. Now in this emotion, or in this moment, you're holding both emotions simultaneously. In one hand, you're holding one emotion, and in the other hand, you are holding the other emotion. What is the part of you that is large enough to hold both emotions? Though emotions may come and go, what doesn't change is awareness. And by the changing emotions, they reveal your unchanging awareness. As awareness itself, you can come to experience yourself in all its many forms. And when anything comes to visit you in your life, an emotion, an experience, a thought, a sensation, it points you back to presence. From presence, you experience your life. The life points you again back to presence on this upward cycle of personal evolution. Come back to the feeling of your body. Come back to the sound of my voice. And in a moment, we will finish our Yoga Nidra practice as I count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yoga Nidra is over. Take another moment to breathe in and out through the nostrils, to move fingers and toes. And as it suits you, you're welcome to come back upright to a seated position. We're going to raise our arms toward the sky. Big inhale. With your exhale, bring your hands together back to your heart. And we've got a few moments for question, answer, or comments here at the end, but for this part of our practice, I offer you a namaste. Really great, everybody. If anybody has any questions or comments, they are welcome to type them in. I can see pretty well from here the comments that are going on. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. Have you ever taught Yoga Nidra to someone who has suffered from sleep paralysis? Could deep Yoga Nidra be potentially triggering for them or healing? I know sleep paralysis is a real and serious thing, and I have not worked personally with anybody with sleep paralysis. However, I have worked with several people with other sleep disorders, and I think that I don't know about sleep paralysis per se, but I know, for example, sleeplessness can really help in that way. So I'd have to get a little bit more information about the sleep paralysis thing to give anything definitive. But I learned it from a psychologist, Dr. Richard Miller, and he has used it for a broad many things. I think it's the way that you would employ it. And for somebody who has sleep paralysis, you might be able to help them by, for example, staying awake or staying upright as they're practicing. And there's even ways to engage a dialogue there. So you could actually use the same principles in a broadened way to maybe help them with that. So that's my immediate. Other comments or questions?
Good resources other than yours, of course?
So Dr. Richard Miller, he came up with something called iRest, short for Integrative Restoration. It's his brand of Yoga Nidra. And he has some wonderful books that I would suggest on Yoga Nidra. As a psychologist who's actually done a lot of work with the top brass in the Pentagon to do clinical studies for people with PTSD, particularly war veterans with PTSD, using Yoga Nidra to help them. He's got several books, one of which is all about PTSD. He's got one simply called iRest or Yoga Nidra. So I would take a look at his stuff. There is Rod Stryker is also another great reference. So check him out. And let's see. Those are some of the biggest names out there right now who are doing some Yoga Nidra stuff. So, and also if you peruse on my blog, there's a ton of articles, little articles about Yoga Nidra there too. So. Anything else?
They want your student course, but they want a student discount.
Okay. If you email me, I'm happy to offer scholarships for anybody who needs a discount for learning Yoga Nidra, right? We're all struggling to make this work. So my website is scottmoreyoga.com. I'm Scott at scottmoreyoga.com. So you can reach me there. And, I've got a ton of free recordings on my website as well. And I also have published several Yoga Nidra recordings on Insight Timer. It's a meditation app that I really enjoy. And there are tens of thousands of yoga meditation teachers on there. And so you can look up, it's a free app, and I just uploaded one a couple days ago, Yoga Nidra for Grief, which I think is really powerful. And the idea is once you sort of find yourself as presence, there's nothing as source, there's nothing you aren't, there's nothing you can't do, there's nothing, you can hold anything. So from that place of deep presence as source, then we can very consciously bring in elements of healing into our lives, these different things. So the explicit purpose of Yoga Nidra is to bring us into awareness, indeed to identify as awareness. As such, there's myriad things we can do to help heal body, mind, and spirit along the way. So thanks, everybody. And thank you to Aaron for the opportunity, the invitation to come and do this. Best of luck on your meditation retreat, and namaste, everybody. Thank you.
You'll be teaching a Sunday class, starting not this Sunday, but the next, right?
Right.
All right. If you have any questions, go ahead and type those in. And otherwise, please have a wonderful night and take care of yourselves and get a little bit more sleep than you think you need. Or love. Keep your phones off.